Ever wish you had like a cheat code for a longer, healthier life? Well, today's deep dive is all about that, sort of. We're talking strength training, but not just for gym rats. This is about how strength impacts us literally at every
Right,
age.
it's not just about bulking up, it's a much bigger picture.
Way bigger. And lucky for us, we have some seriously cool research to unpack
Oh,
today.
absolutely.
We're diving into the work of Dr. Avery Fagenbaum.
This is cutting-edge stuff.
Really is. And he's really become known for this idea of
A strength reserve.
yes.
What?
A strength reserve, like a savings account,
Yeah.
but for your health. So can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, so it's this fascinating idea that the strength we build, especially early on, is like making deposits into this well-being account.
Yeah.
And we can draw on those deposits for years to come.
Okay, I love that analogy, but let's get specific. What does this strength reserve actually mean for us, starting from, like, childhood?
Okay, so think about this. Dr. Fagenbaum, he found that kids who aren't strong, they're less likely to be active in general.
Really?
Yeah. And it makes sense if you think about it. If a child isn't strong, they might feel less confident, less capable, and that can make them shy away from sports, from playing, from just being active in general.
Wow, I never thought about it like that. So it's not just about being able to lift heavy things, it's about building a foundation for a more active life.
Exactly. It's like setting them up for success, not just in the gym, but in life, right?
Okay, so how do we actually like encourage this with kids? Is it like mini weightlifting classes? What does that look like?
Well, and this might surprise some people, but Dr. Fagenbaum's research actually showed a link between strength training in kids and their academic performance.
No way, seriously.
Yeah, they found that kids who incorporated strength training actually had a 15% boost in focus and on-task behavior.
So it's like a brain booster too.
Exactly. And I think it speaks to this mind-body connection we're always hearing about.
This really resonates with me. Thinking back to when I was a kid, I was kind of a scrawny kid, and I wasn't into team sports or anything like that, and so I rarely did anything physical.
Mm.
Looking back, I can totally see how that lack of, I guess, physical confidence kind of spilled over into other areas of my life, I was kind of timid, a little unsure of myself.
It's incredible how interconnected these things are. And it highlights what Dr. Fagenbaum emphasizes in his research, which is that strength training, when done correctly, of course, it has this ripple effect, right? It's not just about physical development, but their cognitive skills, their overall well-being. I mean, it makes you really think about how we prioritize or maybe don't prioritize physical activity for kids these days.
Absolutely. And it sounds like Dr. Fagenbaum is really advocating for a change in our thinking.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
He wants to see strength training not as an extra, not just for athletes, but as this fundamental part of a child's development. Just like we teach them to read, we teach them math, we should be teaching them about their bodies, about movement, about strength.
Yeah, building that strength reserve early. And it sounds like that can have benefits that last a lifetime.
Right. It's not just for kids, right?
Right, exactly. So for those of us who are, well, past our childhood years, is it ever too late to sort of get on board with this whole strength training thing? So for those of us with a few more birthdays under our belts, is it too late?
Not at all. In fact, this is where Dr. Fagenbaum's work gets really interesting. He dug deep into how strength, as we age, it's not just about, keeping up with the grandkids.
So, I mean, I wouldn't mind outrunning a toddler or two.
Right, exactly. But seriously, it's about maintaining our independence as we get older, being able to move through our lives, with confidence, with ease. And that's where strength is key.
So are we talking more important than like balance and flexibility? Those always seem to be the biggies as we, well, age.
Those are important, don't get me wrong. But Dr. Fagenbaum, his research really highlights how strength underpins it all. Think about it. Strength is what lets us bounce back, right?
Yeah.
A little stumble, even a more serious fall if you've got that underlying strength.
Okay, that makes sense. But how does this work? I mean, practically speaking, we all know our bodies change as we get older.
Right, and one of the biggest changes is muscle loss. Sarcopenia, it's called. Imagine like a rope that's slowly fraying. That's sort of what happens to our muscle fibers over time. But here's the cool part.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Strength training, it's like you're reinforcing that rope,
Yeah.
making it tougher, more resilient, less likely to fray.
Oh, I love that visual. So we're holding on to that muscle mass, which is essential for, well, everything, really.
Exactly. But it gets even cooler. Dr. Fagenbaum, he really zoomed in on a specific type of muscle fiber, the fast twitch fibers.
Oh, right, like for sprinting, quick bursts of energy.
Exactly. That near miss you had stepping back from the curb, remember? That's your fast-twitch fibers in action. And those are the ones we lose most rapidly with age, making us more prone to falls, those slower reaction times.
And isn't that kind of counterintuitive? I mean, you think of lifelong runners, they're the picture of health.
Right, and don't get me wrong, endurance training, it's fantastic.
Ooh.
But here's the kicker. It doesn't seem to offer the same protective benefits for these fast-twitch fibers that strength training does.
Okay, so even marathon runners shouldn't skip the weights.
Exactly. It's like a balanced diet.
Yeah.
Hey, you need your veggies, right? But you also need your protein for those muscles.
Yeah.
Strength training, it's like the protein boost for an aging body.
That's such a good way to put it. So does this mean everyone past a certain age should be, like, hitting the weight room?
That's where the nuance comes in. It's not a one-size-fits-all.
Yeah.
For some, yeah, hitting the gym, that's great.
Yeah.
But for others, it might be body weight exercises, resistance bands, even just moving with more intention and purpose throughout the day.
Okay, that feels less intimidating. So even just incorporating small changes, like always taking the stairs instead of the elevator, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. And going back to those fast-twitch fibers, even the intention to move quickly can have an impact.
So if I'm, like, trying to catch something before it falls, I'm giving those fibers a mini workout.
Exactly. It's not always about lifting the heaviest weight. It's about challenging your muscles in ways that mirror those everyday movements.
This is so cool. I feel like strength training is like the secret weapon for aging well, something we can all tap into. But I have to imagine there are still a lot of misconceptions floating around out there, even for those of us who are, into health and fitness. It's funny, actually. I was talking to a friend the other day, and he was a little, I don't know, hesitant about his son starting strength training.
Oh, yeah.
He had this idea that it would, like, stunt his growth or something, which I know.
I hear that a lot, like it's this dangerous thing for young bodies.
Yeah, but you hear so much about the benefits. So what's the real story there?
It's a great question, and honestly, it's where some of these old-school ideas about exercise really collide with the science, Because what Dr. Fagenbaum found is that strength training, key phrase here, when done properly, it's actually incredibly beneficial for kids and teens.
Okay, so emphasis on the done properly. What does that actually look like, especially for, like, younger people just starting out?
It boils down to good guidance, really. I mean, think about it. You wouldn't just toss a kid in the pool without teaching him to swim, right?
Right.
Same idea here. It's about having qualified trainers who understand how to adapt exercises, how to prioritize form over weight, and honestly, how to make it fun. Because if it's not engaging,
they're not going to stick with it.
Exactly. And this is where we need a real mindset shift. What if strength training was viewed as this essential part of, like, physical literacy?
Right.
Just like learning to run, to jump, to throw.
I love that. So it's not just about building bigger muscles. It's about, like, building a more resilient self.
100%.
Wow, this has been so eye-opening. I feel like we've really busted some myths today.
Myths abound. But that's the power of good research, right?
Absolutely. So if our listeners are walking away from this deep dive thinking, okay, I need to rethink my approach to strength training, what's the key takeaway you want them to remember?
It's for everyone. I mean that. Dr. Fagenbaum's work really drives home the point that strength is a lifelong pursuit. It's not just about aesthetics. It's about moving through life with confidence, with independence, with vitality.
And, honestly, who doesn't want a little more of that?
Right.
This has been fantastic. Thank you so much for taking us on this deep dive.
Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure to talk about this stuff.
And to our listeners, we hope this has inspired you to rethink your relationship with strength, no matter your age or fitness level. Until next time, stay strong.